Readers, yesterday you applied some critical lenses to the hate you give to begin to think about power across the story. We're going back into the film today, so take a second and remind yourself, look through your notes, about the powers of sources that Star calls upon, and when she exercises her power and when she feels powerless. We'll also consider power systems like racism, like how Star's daddy teaches his kids a survival lesson if they're stopped by the police. Readers, as you continue to track power in your narratives, I want to remind you that some power interactions are very subtle. One kind of particularly subtle power interaction can be microaggressions, comments that may seem innocuous, but are ways that systemic racism seeps into even the small interactions of everyday life in ways that some people may not notice. Let's try this out with a short clip from The Hate You Give. See if you notice any subtle power interactions between Star and her friends. Take notes as you are making these observations, and then come back to the teaching lesson when you're done. Okay, readers, I want you to figure this out. Think through some of these questions. What is going on in this scene, and why does Star object? Why does Haley get defensive? Why might Star back down or change her mind? Go ahead and pause the video and answer these questions in your notes. So, Star really objected to Haley's comment. It's a subtle interaction. I'll give you a couple of tips here. One is that microaggressions often take the form of comments that definitely come from racist stereotypes. And the second tip is sometimes a comment can be a microaggression because it echoes a racist stereotype. What does that make you think? Go ahead and take a look at the notes that you took and think about these tips. Readers, it's tricky what's happening here. And of course, we can only infer what these girls are thinking and feeling. But we can use our knowledge of microaggressions. You might be saying, for example, that if Haley had this same comment to a white friend, it wouldn't have a racist overtone. But she says it to Star, and the comment either comes from a racist stereotype or it echoes one, the racist stereotype about African Americans and fried chicken. And a last tip is that microaggressions can be unintentional from being unaware of the hidden message about race being communicated. Star seems to be thinking, what is going on here? Is my friend being intentionally racist? Is she being racist but unintentionally? Or is it neither? And she is just talking about the delicious lunch from an hour ago. One way or another, Star is experiencing racism, either from her friend or from the long legacy of racism that has littered our lives with stereotypes that may pop up at any moment. She may have decided which kind of racism it is and also decided not to take it on right now. Or she may still be thinking about what to make of that subtle interaction. What matters here is that we paused to think hard about a subtle power interaction. We also thought about the possibility that a comment might act as a microaggression. It's worth investigating these kinds of subtle power interactions. Microaggressions often reflect and complicate power dynamics and power systems. Readers, let's give you a chance to try this work out in your novel. It may be that there are moments where power plays out in particularly subtle ways. It may be that your character directly addresses microaggressions, like those of you reading The First Rule of Punk. You know that your character makes a chart of the most common microaggression she hears all the time. Or in some of your novels, there may be other particularly subtle power interactions that happen between characters. Take a moment, and when you have an interesting part in your novel that you're thinking about, go ahead and jot some notes as you analyze that moment. Readers, when you go off to read today, will you add this work to the lens you had from yesterday? Be alert to subtle power interactions and microaggressions, and pause to think about those scenes. You might also add some of them to your power maps as worthy notes. All right, readers, time to do this work. Off you go.